Imagine a world where a pinch of spice could buy you a sheep, where a fragrant flower was worth more than treasure, and where wars were fought not for land, but for flavor. From deserts that smelled of incense to oceans crossed for a single grain of pepper, history is filled with foods so precious they reshaped civilizations. Get ready, because today we're uncovering the top 10 foods and spices that were once more valuable than gold. At number 1, we begin with salt. Long before it became a simple table seasoning, salt was regarded as one of the most vital substances on Earth, often referred to as white gold. Its history stretches back to at least 6000 BCE, when evidence of salt extraction and processing first appeared in Romania and China. Unlike other luxuries, its worth was not based on rarity, but on absolute necessity, for salt was the most reliable means of preserving food. With the power to extend the life of meat and fish, it enabled societies to travel long distances, conduct trade, and expand empires. The wealth derived from salt deposits created entire economies, with some civilizations treating blocks of salt as literal coins. In parts of West Africa, it was exchanged weight for weight, with gold between the 7th and 14th centuries, while in Abyssinia, slabs of rock salt functioned as currency. Its importance is etched into language itself. The term salary stems from salarium, the allowance Roman legionaries received to buy salt, a reminder that entire armies once marched for this crystalline treasure. Wars, too, were waged over access to salt, from ancient conflicts in China to the deliberate destruction of southern salt works during the American Civil War. Control over its supply often determined military victory or defeat. Even Napoleon's army suffered terribly during the retreat of 1812 when wounds festered and food spoiled due to the lack of salt. Far more than a condiment, salt shaped civilizations, drove commerce, and stood at the crossroads of survival and empire. Its story proves that sometimes the most ordinary item today once defined the balance of power across the ancient world. At number 2, we encounter frankincense and myrrh, the sacred treasures of the desert. Few commodities carried the mystical aura and immense value of frankincense and myrrh, two aromatic resins harvested from the arid landscapes of Arabia and Northeast Africa. These botanical marvels, long celebrated as gifts worthy of kings, were prized for their fragrance, medicinal properties, and sacred associations. The Egyptians employed myrrh extensively in embalming practices. While both resins perfumed temples, homes, and royal courts across Mesopotamia, Greece, and Rome, they were not merely luxuries. They were woven into spiritual life, used in rituals to honor gods and accompany the dead on their journey to the afterlife. Their popularity birthed the famous Incense Road, a trade network stretching thousands of miles and rivaling even the Silk Road in wealth and influence. This booming demand encouraged the domestication of camels, turning vast deserts into thriving highways of commerce. The Nabateans, for example, built entire cities like Petra by taxing the trade of frankincense and myrrh, amassing immense riches from these tiers of the trees. To guard their monopoly, Arab traders spun wild legends, claiming that Boswellia trees were protected by deadly flying serpents and that their collection required immense bravery. These tales, though fabricated, enhanced the mystique of the resins, justifying astronomical prices and keeping outsiders at bay. Beyond myth, frankincense and myrrh were highly practical, used to treat coughs, digestive troubles, and even wounds. Worth their weight in gold, they reveal how perception, religion, and storytelling can elevate natural products into symbols of wealth, mystery, and divine connection. In their time, these resins were not simply goods, they were engines of trade that reshaped the ancient world. At number 3, we discover black pepper, the ransom of Rome. Known as the King of Spices, black pepper was one of the most sought-after treasures of the ancient world, fueling exploration, maritime innovation, and even shaping geopolitics. Native to the lush Malabar coast of India, pepper quickly transcended its culinary role, becoming a symbol of prestige and a driving force in global commerce. The Romans adored it, sprinkling it liberally over food, while traders developed vast sea networks to transport it westward. A pivotal breakthrough occurred when Indian sailors revealed the secrets of the monsoon winds, allowing Roman merchants to sail directly to India instead of relying solely on overland routes. This discovery triggered a massive surge in spice trade, with fleets of Roman ships carrying tons of pepper, cinnamon, and cloves back to Mediterranean ports. Yet the true measure of pepper's worth is immortalized in a dramatic moment of history. In 410 CE, when Rome was besieged by the Visigoths under King Alaric I, the once mighty empire was forced to pay an enormous ransom to spare its destruction. The price: gold, silver, and an immense quantity of black pepper. That a conquering army would accept pepper as part of a tribute underscores its universal value and portability as a form of wealth. To the Romans, it was as essential as coinage. To their enemies, it was as good as treasure. In this single transaction, pepper proved itself not just a seasoning, but a currency and a weapon of diplomacy. Its story is a reminder that the demand for flavor once carried the power to build empires, redirect trade routes, and even decide the fate of great civilizations. At number 4, we turn to cinnamon, the secret of the East. Among the most enchanting spices of antiquity, cinnamon was a treasure shrouded in mystery and myth, a fragrant bark that became more valuable than gold itself. Native to Sri Lanka and southern India, cinnamon's origins remained hidden from the wider world for millennia. Traders who controlled its movement used secrecy as their greatest weapon, crafting elaborate legends to protect their monopoly. To Egyptians, cinnamon was a prized ingredient for sacred rituals, perfumes, and embalming, while Greek and Roman elites demanded it as a luxury in cuisine and medicine. Cleopatra herself is said to have worn its scent as an intoxicating charm to captivate Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, giving the spice an aura of seduction and divine allure. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of cinnamon's story lies not in its uses, but in its market manipulation. Arab merchants told wild tales that cinnamon was collected from nests of giant birds, or that it grew in remote, dangerous lands guarded by deadly creatures. These stories, though fantastical, served a calculated purpose. They concealed the true source of cinnamon and maintained sky-high prices in Europe. By controlling knowledge, traders controlled wealth, building a monopoly that enriched them for centuries. To medieval Europeans, cinnamon was not just a flavor, it was a symbol of prestige, a mark of opulence that only the elite could afford. Its secrecy-driven economy foreshadows modern strategies of intellectual property protection, showing how carefully guarded information could shape global trade. Cinnamon's tale is a testament to how myth, mystery, and strategic deception transformed a humble bark into one of history's most profitable luxuries. At number 5, we arrive at ginger and cloves, the barter of the Middle Ages. In the bustling marketplaces of medieval Europe, few goods carried as much weight, literally and figuratively, as ginger and cloves. These pungent spices, sourced from the far reaches of Asia, became cornerstones of commerce and symbols of wealth. During the Middle Ages, their scarcity gave them values so extravagant that they were traded not for coins, but for livestock. A single pound of ginger could be exchanged for a sheep, while a pound of cloves was worth an astonishing 7 sheep. Nutmeg, even rarer, was valued so highly that 1 pound could buy 7 oxen, a staggering fortune in agrarian Europe. These strange but very real exchanges reveal the extraordinary economic pressure spices exerted on the medieval world. When the Ottoman Empire gained control over eastern trade routes in the 15th century, spice prices skyrocketed, placing them firmly in the realm of elites. This economic chokehold became one of the driving forces of the Age of Exploration, spurring European powers to risk uncharted oceans in search of direct access to Asia's riches. Portuguese navigators like Vasco da Gama carved the sea route around Africa, while Columbus, funded by Spain, sought a western passage and instead stumbled upon the Americas. Spices like ginger and cloves were not merely luxuries, they were catalysts of world-changing exploration and conquest. Their intoxicating aroma shaped international relations, fueled naval empires, and even justified the colonization of new continents. In their small, fragrant form, these spices embodied the immense power of desire, capable of redrawing maps and shifting the course of global history. At number 6, we witness nutmeg and mace, the prize of the Spice Islands. If cinnamon was shrouded in secrecy and cloves drove exploration, then nutmeg and mace became the very symbols of ruthless monopoly and colonial ambition. Grown exclusively in the Maluku Islands of Indonesia, these spices were unlike any other. They existed nowhere else in the world, making them the crown jewels of the spice trade. European nations vied bitterly for control of this fragrant empire. But it was the Dutch East India Company, VOC, established in 1602, that emerged as the ultimate power. Determined to monopolize nutmeg and mace, the VOC unleashed an unprecedented campaign of conquest. They wrested control from the Portuguese, brutally suppressed indigenous communities, and destroyed nutmeg trees on islands outside their control to maintain scarcity. This calculated destruction was a deliberate economic weapon. By keeping supply artificially low, the Dutch could command astronomical profits on the global stage. The brutality was staggering. Massacres, forced relocations, and slavery marked their rule, turning nutmeg from a symbol of luxury into a commodity soaked in blood. The VOC became one of the world's first true corporations, wielding state-like powers to wage war, enforce trade, and dictate policy, all in the name of protecting their spice monopoly. Nutmeg was not only valued for its flavor and medicinal qualities, but also believed to ward off plague, which only increased demand in Europe during times of crisis. The tale of nutmeg and mace demonstrates the devastating consequences of greed when a single commodity becomes the linchpin of empire. More than a seasoning, these spices became the reason for colonization, war, and the reshaping of entire regions, standing as one of history's starkest examples of how far humanity will go in the pursuit of profit. At number 7, we unveil vanilla, the Aztec treasure. Among the lush forests of Mexico, the Totonac people cultivated one of the world's most enchanting flavors, vanilla. This orchid-derived spice, later adopted by the mighty Aztecs, was blended with cacao to create chocolatl, a bitter yet invigorating drink reserved for nobles and warriors. When Hernán Cortés carried this concoction back to Spain in the 16th century, vanilla captivated European palates, instantly becoming a luxury, accessible only to royalty and the wealthy elite. But its rise to a global fame was hindered by a strange and costly mystery. Though the vanilla vine could grow in Europe and colonial plantations, it stubbornly refused to produce fruit. The answer lay not in climate or soil, but in biology. The delicate vanilla orchid could only be pollinated by the tiny Melipona bee found exclusively in Mexico. For centuries, this quirk kept vanilla production confined to its native homeland, bottlenecking supply and ensuring astronomical value. The turning point came in 1841, when Edmond Albius, a young enslaved boy on the French island of Réunion, discovered a manual pollination technique that allowed farmers to fertilize the flowers by hand. His simple but revolutionary method unlocked the possibility of large-scale vanilla cultivation across the tropics, from Madagascar to Tahiti. Today, vanilla is beloved in everything from desserts to perfumes, yet its story remains extraordinary. A tale of ancient rituals, colonial intrigue, and the ingenuity of one forgotten boy who changed the fate of a global industry. Vanilla proves that the worth of a commodity can hinge not only on rarity or trade, but on the fragile dance between nature and human discovery. At number 8, we marvel at truffles, the Earth's hidden jewels. Unlike spices harvested from trees or vines, truffles are a subterranean treasure, a fungus that grows hidden beneath the soil near oak and hazelnut trees. Their rarity, pungent aroma, and air of mystery have made them one of the most luxurious foods in history. The Romans considered truffles a delicacy, associating their appearance with lightning strikes and divine intervention, while European nobles later elevated them into symbols of wealth and refinement. But the challenge of acquiring them was as unique as the fungi themselves. For centuries, hunters relied on pigs to sniff out truffles, only to struggle as the animals eagerly devoured their finds. Eventually, dogs were trained for the hunt, bringing a new theatrical element to the search. Unlike spices that could be cultivated and scaled up into global trade networks, truffles resisted domestication, their growth patterns stubbornly tied to specific soils, climates, and symbiotic tree roots. This enduring scarcity, combined with the aura of mystery surrounding their discovery, propelled their value to legendary heights. Even in modern times, rare white truffles from Italy and black truffles from France command staggering sums, with individual specimens selling for tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars at auction. In 2007, a single truffle weighing 1.5 kilograms fetched an astonishing $330,000. Underscoring the extraordinary status of this culinary jewel. More than food, truffles embody exclusivity, luxury, and the thrill of the hunt. Their story shows that the value of some foods is not measured by necessity or utility, but by their scarcity, mystique, and the spectacle of acquiring them. At number 9, we celebrate saffron, The golden legacy. No spice better exemplifies luxury than saffron, a crimson thread that has been treasured for over 4,000 years. Originating from the stigmas of the crocus flower, saffron was cultivated as early as 2300 BCE and used not only to flavor dishes, but also to dye garments, prepare perfumes, and even treat illnesses. Ancient Persians believed it had healing properties, while Greeks and Romans employed it in medicine and rituals. Yet what truly elevates saffron above all others is the staggering labor involved in its production. Each flower produces only 3 delicate stigmas, and these must be plucked by hand at dawn during the brief autumn flowering season. To produce just 1 kilogram of dried saffron requires between 70,000 and 200,000 blossoms and countless hours of human labor. Unlike commodities, whose prices are inflated by trade monopolies or colonial conquest, saffron's enduring expense lies in its inherent biology and the sheer effort needed to harvest it. Its golden threads once rivaled the cost of precious metals, giving rise to the modern myth that saffron was worth more than gold. While that claim may not hold against today's bullion prices, saffron remains the world's most expensive spice by weight, often retailing for thousands of dollars per pound. Its value is not just in its flavor, but in its symbolism, an enduring link between human patience, agricultural artistry, and the timeless pursuit of beauty and luxury. Saffron's story reminds us that some treasures of the table remain as rare and costly as they were in antiquity, defined not by conquest, but by the delicate work of human hands. At number 10, we conclude with Da Hong Pao tea, a legendary Chinese tea so rare and revered that it has transcended the marketplace to become a priceless cultural artifact. Originating from 6 ancient mother trees in the Wuyi Mountains, this oolong tea has been cultivated for centuries and woven into Chinese tradition, medicine, and diplomacy. Unlike other luxury foods, Da Hong Pao is no longer commercially available in its purest form. The original trees, considered national treasures, were declared off-limits for harvesting in 2006 to preserve them for future generations. This decision elevated their final harvest into a relic, now safeguarded in the National Museum of China. The tea's aura of prestige is reinforced by dramatic historical anecdotes. In 1972, Premier Zhou Enlai gifted a mere 200 grams to U.S. President Richard Nixon, noting that it represented nearly half the nation's remaining supply of the authentic tea. Auction records further underscore its extraordinary reputation, with small amounts of genuine Da Hong Pao fetching prices many times higher than gold. Beyond taste, its value lies in heritage, scarcity, and symbolism. It represents not simply a drink, but the legacy of Chinese culture and the idea that some luxuries become too precious for trade. In the evolution of valuable foods, Da Hong Pao stands at the pinnacle. It has moved beyond commerce, becoming legend, diplomacy, and cultural pride embodied in a cup. Its story concludes our list as the ultimate expression of how food can transcend economics to become history itself. From salt that paid Roman soldiers to nutmeg that sparked ruthless monopolies, these foods and spices were far more than ingredients. They were forces that built empires, toppled kingdoms, and shaped the world we live in today. Their value reflected survival, power, and prestige, reminding us that what's ordinary on our shelves was once priceless beyond imagination. If you enjoyed this journey through history's most valuable foods, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And subscribe for more captivating stories from the past. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.